A lot going on in this head.
And yeah. Yeah, dude, you've had a busy week.
Oh, jeez.
Where do you even want to start?
I don't know, maybe it cancels out some of the stuff, but I've been on a journey. One of the discussions that I think we were having last week was around me bringing editing back. I found someone today, someone I'd sort of known about for a while and seems like a nice person and I'm not going to give any details away because I'm kind of going to talk shit about them a little bit. And I don't want them to feel bad because like they shouldn't feel bad.
Sure.
Well,
Well,
they should do better. They shouldn't feel bad. They should do better.
yeah, no, I get it.
There's some substandard shoddy work going on in the name of this thing here that we call podcast editing. Some basic stuff that should be done that isn't being done. Like, for example, listening to multiple episodes of different podcasts made ostensibly by the same person, and they're all different volume levels, like wildly different volume levels. There is no world in which that should be the case.
No.
If you call yourself an audio professional, it's different than if you're a beginner. That's fine. I'm not going to condescend to this person. This person's not a beginner. They should do better.
Sure. Yeah.
And people are getting shortchanged. Like, that's my kind of slightly autistic way of looking at this stuff. Is like,
absolutely,
this doesn't meet the bar. These people are getting a worse service than they deserve. And it's not that I'm going to come around and try and steal everybody's lunch, but like, I kind of do slightly want to be out here again and be like this needs to be done. So I went for my walk this morning and I was properly in my head. Like, I got that sensation of, I can't remember if I've talked about it here before, but there's a sensation I've started to get where, and I think it's just like a tightness in the throat, and it kind of feels like I want to throw up a little bit. And I think it's just a constriction. And it comes when basically I'm thinking too hard.
Oh, no.
And it's just like, it's sheer effort of not just effort. It's not like, why is 32 divided by 7? It's not that. It's it's more like, okay, give you a better example of this that kind of gives you a sense of what I mean. The end of 2020, I went out walking, went out for a Boxing Day, so day after Christmas Day, Boxing Day walk with my parents. And I was like, I want to have a think about a couple of things. And I just want to kind of clear my head and think about work and think about, what I'm going to do. I got to a point where we were walking up a very gentle incline of a hill, and I was like, I can't take another step. I was so up in my head and so preoccupied. I was like, I can't do it. I can't do anything. I can't take, like, I was just, I'm not too tired. I just can't. And it's just, we've talked about spiraling before, and it's, the spiral gets ever and ever and ever tighter, and, and I'm definitely given to that. So I was doing a bit of that today. Just, as an occupation. I got back home and I hadn't really resolved anything. I'd left Brendan a long voice note, I think on Wednesday, a big ramble about an idea. I then yesterday was like, I'm going to do what I've done in years past. I'm going to take to the internet. I'm going to say, here's an idea I've got to think. Here's my enthusiasm. Here's my love. And then it was, and it worked in 2016. It kind of worked in 2017 with some stuff. And then just like, no, shut down. Absolutely not. Like, this was automatically deleted by Reddit. And I was like,
was it by Reddit or that sub?
Deleted by a bot in that sub. Now, in hindsight, in my enthusiasm, in my haste, I hadn't, this was an oversight. It wasn't, intentional. I hadn't joined the subreddit. So that's a fair ground. Like even so, I was like, I didn't really have any hard feelings. I was disappointed, as you and I talked about last night. But like, I didn't bear anyone ill will. I'm like, okay, there's obviously a thing here. And then I was like, oh, no, I never actually joined the sub. I didn't mean to do it like that. And I can see how someone might, there's an etiquette here. If you're going to post, like, maybe don't join straight away and then post your thing. What then got interesting, which we haven't discussed, is I posted a message to the Don, to Mastodon, and to Threads as well.
When you said the Don, you had been talking about Reddit, and so...
The Donald, yes. So
it's like, you went to the Don, huh?
That's a strange place.
Tell me more.
Yeah. So I posted last night. I jumped onto a subreddit and got too excited, and my post got binned, brackets, no hard feelings, close brackets. But here's the thing. I'd like to make some podcast fiction. I'd like to find somebody who's written something good and would like me to turn it into something that tickles the ears. Maybe 2 or 3. I'll do it for free because eventually I'd like to charge for it, brackets. I have some ideas about that for later, close brackets. If you reading this could pass this along to anyone who might want to know, please do. And it got quite a few boosts. And then I got a reply from someone, and it was like, this was the thing I'd feared, but like more.
Okay.
And the reply was, to all of that, the reply was, would the author get paid?
What the fuck?
I'm glad you reacted like that. Talk to me about that reaction. Talk me through your thought process when I'm like, I'd like to produce some audio fiction. I'll do it for free. At some point, I'd like to charge for it, but right now I'm happy doing it for free. I
guess they were thinking they were probably thinking like the audio that is then produced would be charged, like customers would pay to listen to it. It wouldn't be like a free podcast or something. And so then they're trying to see if the author would get paid from the consumers buying it, which, okay, that makes sense if that's where they were going. I was thinking at first I was thinking like, well, are you, Mark, going to pay the author for the privilege of being able to edit their audio? That makes no fucking sense. Like, you're doing a service.
I thought so.
Yeah. No.
So I woke up to that this morning, and I was like, I rewrote the tweet a few times. I'm still not delighted with it, but I wrote back, what sort of scenario / arrangement were you picturing?
That's great. I like that. I like it so far.
To which their reply was, it sounds like you would be reading out an author's work, then you get paid for doing so, but the author may not. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Why? And this is my point. Why is that the first thing you go to? Mm-hmm. And it really got me interested. And I think there's and you've worked more with authors, because I've done my own audio fiction, but it's stuff I've written. Yeah. You've worked with authors before.
Yeah.
I feel like with a lot of this not genre, but like a lot of work that is maybe done by self-published authors, I get the feeling that a lot of people feel like someone is out with a grift against them.
Oh, for sure. I mean, there's so many people who are out for a grift. So like, I understand that impulse personally, but like also I think that, you're coming at this from the lifetime that you've been in podcasting, where all podcasts are free for the consumer, and they might be, they're thinking audio fiction, not podcast. You didn't say podcast in there. I did
say podcast fiction, but yeah, it's still fair enough.
Yeah, but they might be thinking like audio books, where you have the consumer has to pay for the audiobook, and typically a good production of audio is not free. So yeah, now I'm coming back around to being like, okay, I kind of understand their perspective a little bit more. But yeah, obviously, like at first, because I was also thinking it from the perspective of it would be a free podcast for people to listen to, because that's so accessible.
Like, your perspective makes sense. My brain didn't really go there, because I knew I specifically meant podcast. But you're absolutely right. That like what I perceived to be the meaning of the word podcast is entirely subjective in other people's eyes or ears. So yeah, but it was really interesting. This like sense of I feel like a certain type of fiction, and I'm reading or listening to an audiobook, which is partly what got me started on this. There's a whole genre of sort of science fiction called lit RPG. Are you aware of this?
Yeah. I am. Yeah, my friend Carl is an avid reader and listener, and it just started also doing some writing as well. He shared,
and his name happens to be Carl, and the
Carl.
series that I'm reading is Dungeon Crawler Carl.
yeah. I'm not sure if he's read that one or not, but that's kind of a cool concept.
I was partly kind of inspired by listening to the narrator, who's just super talented and just like really in the pocket and knows exactly what he's doing, and has ended up building a company. And I think a lot of it feels like it's probably based on, or he has, I think, this author to thank, because the guy's got 5 books already out, I think a 6th coming, and from what I gather, they've been rather popular. What you see, I think, in a lot of this fiction, and I know you would have seen this with the people you work with as well, is like you kind of alluded to, like a sense of outsiderness. Like there is an outsider art aspect to a lot of this, where people really do feel like they are being shat upon in some degree. And so, like, here comes another guy who's been in business podcasting for fuck's sake, who's coming along. Here's another one who's gonna, try and take advantage of me, or try and put me into a corner, and like I absolutely saw it from that perspective. It was really interesting as a thing to wake up to. My response, which is the final bit in this, because they haven't replied yet, and it would be really good if they did, to get that clarification. I think what my thought was ads.
Right.
That's what my assumption was this, because again, I knew I was talking specifically about podcasting. And so I said, are you thinking ads? If so, anyone getting paid would be a long way off, brackets, in the current climate and niches being what they are. And I have a plan for how that works. But the short answer is there's no world in which I make money from another creator's work before they do. Yeah. Brackets, aside from those who want to pay me to produce, just like with any other project. This is about partnerships, not exploitation. So
yeah, I love that.
That is as far as that conversation went, but I just thought it was an interesting one.
Yeah, and that was startling.
Little journey.
Funny.
Little journey. So and so I was thinking about that this morning, going on my walk, and came back, and I had at 10 o'clock, I help run a thing on a Friday, which is like a virtual co-working space just for an hour for people who want to write. So like whether you've got a blog post to write or whatever, I just, hold a little space for that. And I only had one person in there who's someone who's known me for a while. And I was talking about how I was feeling a bit lost and trying to find what I'm here for. And he's like, yeah, you've done that a lot. And yeah.
Which part, like being lost, or like you've been lost a lot, or you've like trying to
find myself a lot.
Yeah, okay.
I think he was like, you've turned over a lot of stones. It was something like that.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah. And then I was talking about how I was going to write my newsletter, and how it's funny. It's like that's something that I do that is easy. Mm-hmm. Takes me 20 minutes, and people like it.
Awesome.
People tell me they like it. People like unbidden say, I read your newsletter, or I have read your newsletter, like, and I like it, and it's good for this reason. And I'm like, oh, they've actually read it. Like, and in one case, I last week I did a podcast version of it. I just thought, I've got a bit of time. Let's do it as an audio version. I haven't put it in the podcast places. I just like embedded it in the newsletter. So, and someone like hit play. Someone's like, yeah, no, it's good because I can hear the clip of the thing you're talking about as well. Like, oh,
nice.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
It's just when things are easy, you just go, oh. Yeah. And so that kind of got me thinking about stuff, and just thinking about like following what's easy, and how that is. That's like that, and list envy. The newsletter more than anything, because actually, if anything, list envy is in decline. I think, but we'll cross that bridge. I'm still making episodes, but anyway. So the newsletter, I was like, okay, that's heartening. That's nice, and I sort of felt good about it, and didn't do anything for the whole hour. I was just like noodling around and deliberately kind of just just taking in the space rather than trying to make something if I was feeling a little bit meh.
Mm-hmm.
And I was then just sort of looking around at, not competitors, but like the landscape again of podcast editing. Because every now and again, I check my prices because, okay. I got to wondering, so I did, about how much of my sense of needing to find myself. And I was thinking on my walk about like having this sense of my sort of job, career, whatever it is at the moment, my offering even, being like trying to balance a card on top of a toothpick. It's like the toothpick's nice and steady, but like trying to balance the card on top of that, it's just like it could very easily just like topple. And it felt like that.
Yeah.
And I was looking at this other person's work and going, okay, well, that's what they charge and that's all fair enough. And there was just something, I looked at it and just went, there is a assuredness or a surety or a something there that person knows they're doing what they should be doing, or they know they're in the right place right now. And I was wondering about one of the reasons why I felt less than kind of secure in my work is I haven't been valuing that work highly enough.
Yeah.
Because I got into my head about, and this maybe proves or goes to the point that I was making right at the beginning, I kind of devalued the skill and I was like, well, anyone can do this. And so if you start thinking anyone can do this, you're like, well, my skill obviously doesn't have value. And I knew that there were other ways in which I absolutely do add value. Like, I'm very good at taking initiative. I don't bring problems to clients. And I didn't realize how unusual that was. But like, if I can fix a problem without going to the client and asking them for help, or, I need this thing, or like, I will do it. Very quick case in point so that you know what I mean. Every now and again, email does a weird thing. One of my clients' email does a weird thing where like they'll send me a link. Like they used to send me links for show notes, and one or more of them would look exactly like text, but it would be an image. And I don't think that was them taking a screenshot. Just something weird had happened where it would look exactly like the text in the rest of the email, but like one line of it would be an image.
Weird.
Yeah. And so when you're trying to copy and paste links, like that one doesn't work because it's an image, it's not text.
Yeah.
And so
what the fuck?
What I think most people would do is they would hit reply and they would go, this one seems to be an image, not. And I'm like,
right.
Well, OCR exists. Like,
yeah,
I can just, especially now on a Mac, like it's so easy. I can open the image and I can go, well, because it's perfect text, it just selects and it's perfect. It's a link and it's fine. Like, I don't need to bring that weird confusion problem to the client if I can fix it myself.
Right.
I've done that where sometimes a client has hit record and then they've started too soon. Like they've hit record on Riverside and then they haven't waited for the countdown fully. And so what you actually get is low instead of hello. Like, or even, welcome to the podcast. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to ask them to re-record the hello and welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, you just clip it from a previous episode.
It's take that from a previous episode and weave it in and like done. Like it's, or it's little things like that.
Yep, for sure.
Not bringing problems. Looking at some other people's work and also the definitions, what people consider editing as well is like what some people call editing is just assembly. Like it's just assembly and maybe a little bit of chopping.
Right.
I don't know, like, as someone who's done it yourself a lot, are you a second by second listener or are you like a hunt and pecker?
Oh, I listen through the whole thing, usually at 1.5 speed, so that like it doesn't take as much time, but I want to hear every moment and I like to clear up false starts, and I don't always remove every and thing like that, but sometimes I do. I do like to when I listen to a podcast, it feels so much more silky and smooth with those things gone. And so I do enjoy it. And you know, the person sounds more confident, more assured, and everything with those removed. And so I do like that experience. So oftentimes I will remove all that. But yeah, I go through and listen to the whole thing and make sure that there's no. It's also like some of my projects, like You're Great, Unique will go through and do a pre-edit first, taking out stuff that she already knows she wants to remove. And so then I'm going to listen to through the whole thing to make sure that her edits didn't chop weird, because sometimes they do. So, because I think she just goes in Descript and uses the text, whereas I'm going to be listening. So, but yeah, for sure.
That's the correct way to do it.
Yeah.
You know that. That's that.
For sure.
That's what editing is.
That's what editing is.
And I'm surprised sometimes when people are surprised by that. And it's like, it's like sometimes people will send me a thing like, at this point, this thing happened. And I'm like, it's all right. You don't need to tell me. Like, I'll find it. Like, because I'm going to listen to the whole thing, because that's what an editor does.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that's just assembly. And I saw...
I've done packages where like my offering is, you could, I won't listen through, and I will just edit whatever timestamps you give me. And then, and it's way cheaper because I'm not spending an hour and a half going through and listening to the whole thing and editing it fine tunely. But yeah, to me, that's not the default. The default is I'm going to listen to the whole thing and make sure that this is a good experience for the listener.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And knowing that that's not universal.
Yeah.
Like
insane.
It's just, it made me more secure. Again, I charge £120 per episode, which I guess is about $150.
Sounds great.
To our point, I think from last week, I've started not watching the transcript.
Right. Okay.
As I edit. And it's, I did one of the episodes that I would usually do that for, and it was just so much. It didn't save huge amounts of time, but man, I felt like better after it.
Nice.
And I could do other things like, someone's talking about a LinkedIn profile or a book or something. I can be looking that up while I'm still listening rather than having to pause. Wait, and like, so yeah. And it's really, because I know what they use the transcript for. It's just going into an AI mulcher. So, which is what I do as well. So it's like no degradation in, loss of service, if you like. So that was a big thing. One of the reasons I was looking around for pricing was because I've been having these conversations with people about my sort of bit for the last however long has been like helping you with the strategy of a launch and come up with a good podcast idea and all that stuff, but then handing it off to someone else. And what I've seen for the last few times is that is a suboptimal experience, especially as like I was recommended someone, I was told about someone who does good work really cheaply. And you always go like, okay, what's the catch?
Yeah.
The catch is this guy does not communicate. So I've sent him. I spoke to him on Zoom. Lovely guy. And if you're listening, you're a lovely guy. You seem like a really nice guy, and you've clearly got the abilities. But you got to answer emails, my dude. Like I sent them a new client, and nothing. This client is backed up with episodes now. And she's as chill as fuck as a person. But now she's like, starting to get a bit like, I want to know where my episodes are. And I just had a chat with her on Monday, and I was like, right, this is not acceptable.
No.
I'm willing to step up and kind of step into this a lot more now and actually like value what I do and value the craft and value the work.
Yeah.
So I had a little play around with making a video this morning or this afternoon. I had a chat with this client that I'd quoted for editing, and they were like delighted, basically.
Wonderful.
Because it's like, yeah, you've just made life easier for me. And exactly the friggin' point. Part of the thing that has had me so frustrated in like, we think about the last like 4 or 5 weeks where like every week there's been something new, is because I don't have the energy at the end of the day, because the plate that is my business, the spinning plate that is my business, because right now it is in a tricky position just because of stuff, or it's in an uncertain position. And so the energy that it takes to keep that plate spinning, and it's been the case for the last 5-6 years. Even with Podium, it was a little bit like that, but nowhere near as much. But definitely the last 3 years, the energy that it's taken, I think, means that as much passion and enthusiasm as I have for some of these what feel like amazing new ideas, I'm like, I don't have the energy to lift them.
Yeah.
I want to. And that's what's so annoying is there is this, the mental, almost physical mental energy is there.
Yeah.
It's not like I finish a day and I'm like, I'm pooped. I'm not pooped. But the motivation just isn't there. The motivation to start and build up a new thing while I'm still trying to build this other thing. I think that's the bit that's causes me upset. And because I keep looking for things that are easy, but nothing is.
No.
Nothing is anymore.
No.
Because everything needs something else. Everything needs a strategy or something, and it's like, And that's sort of okay while, Podium existed. I built Podium because I was secure in my freelance work, because I could do a load of freelance, make a load of money as a developer, and finish my nights knowing, well, I haven't got to look for a project for another 2 months, so I'll be all right. And so I had the mental energy because I wasn't worrying about stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not worrying in terms of, I'm not in financial difficulty, but I also know I can't coast on the clients that I have, because at some point I know some of them, the projects will reach a natural end, and then what do I do? And I'm in the process of finding new work, and hopefully I'm making that easier now.
I wish I was thinking that way a couple of years ago.
Yeah. No, it's always too late.
Yeah.
I'm heartened a little bit more by just sort of reconnecting with not even what I'm good at, but where my value is, which is, what I'm good at, but I don't necessarily think, whatever. I've got a bit of work to do to advertise my editing services, more better on my website, because I haven't, and change a few things, and that'll be fun, and I'll enjoy that. And what's nice is it doesn't need a new brand. It doesn't need anything else. No. I'm not thinking about agency. I'm just going, this is craft. And that's what I've needed. It's this is craft. I see it now. And hopefully that video shows a little bit of what that is, and a little bit of what it's like to work with me as well. So
yeah, it does. I think it does. That's great. I'm glad that you've found a new perspective on your craft and your power, your abilities, your what makes you great. Because some of us out here can see it, but it's not frustrating, but it's heart-wrenching a little bit, for us to see you not see it. I guess I'll just speak for me, but knowing that you have these skills, you have these this wonderful care, and that's so beautiful and important. I see that in myself too, and it's so frustrating when the masses don't really care. When the clients don't, when you get a client that appreciates that extra mile, it's wonderful. And when you get a client that doesn't care about the extra mile, oof, God, that's frustrating.
And I wonder how much of that is ignorance, and because I have or had clients where that didn't feel like the case, where it felt like, I don't think you get. Because you and I, we don't want to bring problems to our clients. Right. They don't actually see that actually there's a lot of work that goes into something that feels effortless.
Yep.
But there will be those that will know that it's almost like, I'm sure there are clients that you've had who must know the difference in not just quality of workmanship, but like of all of the other stuff, the stuff that we maybe call soft skills, that people don't know to value until it's not there, because they think that's the baseline.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's actually not the baseline.
Right.
It's just that I'm the first person you've worked with, so you think that's default. And so I'm now not here, and now you're suddenly seeing this dip, and it's like, that's where your value is. And that's frustrating.
I talked with a previous client recently. They had hired me for many years, and then they moved to Oklahoma and cannot hire me anymore because the commute is crazy.
No.
So I had reached out to them because I was asking I sent like a mass email to a bunch of past clients asking for their votes for the Best of the Rose City Awards. And also at the same time, I was like, well, while I have you here, if you haven't left a review on Google or Yelp or anything anywhere else, go to rockstarremodel.com/review.
Really helps listeners discover the show.
It really does, actually.
Yeah. It doesn't in podcasting, but it does in your line of work. Yes, absolutely.
Apparently, it's super important. And man, the thing about like the way that I work, I have 10 to 15 clients a year, and so each review is like super important. And that's
more than I would have expected, actually. Just because of the length of time, I would have thought we would have taken for jobs.
Well, I mean, I've had one. This is August. This is month 8, and I've only done one project this year. I finished up a project I had started from last year in January, and then in February I started a kitchen and bathroom remodel. And so I've had one project for the past 7 months. So yeah, those reviews are super, super important. I work so hard to try to make sure each one is 5, because less than 5 stars is a negative.
Yeah.
It's 5 stars is the only one that matters. And God, so I try really hard to be above and beyond for each, make the whole experience, the communication, the workmanship. And I'm getting way off topic from what I was talking about. So my client emailed me back. He's like, oh yeah, I meant to write you a review when we moved, but things got crazy and I forgot, but I'll write you one now. And if you ever take up residence in Oklahoma, let me know, because I just hired a guy to work on my bathroom here, and I bought a can of primer and a can of paint. And even though the can of primer had big bold letters that said primer on it, and the can of paint had a sticker on top with the color paint, code and everything, he used the paint first and then the primer on top of it.
I literally heard about this today. Someone else talked about this. I can't remember where, on another podcast. It's literally the same. How weird is that? Someone did the primer after the paint.
Like, what the
I'm pretty sure even I know you do the primer first. I mean, it's
literally card primer. Oh my God.
Yikes.
Yeah, it makes me like, oh my God, it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating.
It is, isn't it? That's the thing. It is frustrating to see bad work done by your peers.
Yes.
So for my case, it might be like, well, that's outside of my niche, so like I'm not going to go there. For you, it's like, there's literally like I don't live there, so I can't.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's just like, I don't know. Like, if you don't do this kind of work, if you don't do work for clients, if you don't do like, it's not just consulting, but where you actually make something, help people make something. If you don't do that, I don't know if you understand that particular frustration.
Right. There's a group of people that, and I wouldn't say a group, like it sounds like it's a small section of people. It's the majority of people. In my opinion, I haven't done a survey, but in my opinion, the majority of people don't care about quality. Like, if I were to be hired by a builder to do a thing, or hired by somebody to help them flip a house, or hired by somebody to remodel their bathroom for resale value, in these instances, they don't actually care about the quality of the work. They care about how it looks on the surface. They care about how well it will sell. And
this isn't a challenge, but it's a question.
Yeah.
Is that true, or is it that they don't know what quality is to look for?
I don't know that there's too much of a difference in. I think it might be both.
One is, I know what good quality is. I just don't care as long as it's cheap. The other one is,
well, I had an instance. I think that gets to this point. Like, I had a new client reach out to me a month or two ago. They needed flooring in the bathroom, and they wanted to install vinyl planks. And I'm like, okay, that's great. How are we treating the subfloor? Like, what waterproof barrier are we putting down before that? That flooring is waterproof. It's vinyl. It's plastic. Not going to rot. Yep. But it's not going to stop water from going through the cracks.
Yeah, it's not, there's exactly. It's sealed, and it's not sealed. So there's water. Yeah.
And he's like, oh no, we're not doing anything. We're just putting a flooring down. And I'm like, okay, well, just in case you don't know, like this. In this scenario, that will trap the water down there. It will create the perfect habitat for mold. It will grow and be a health hazard for the occupant. So I would not be able to install the flooring without putting a waterproof barrier down there. And they're like, oh, okay.
The shortcut of that is you gotta. It's like, well, we don't want it. The shortcut is you gotta.
Yeah. And they were like, okay, well, how much would that be? And
that's not the point.
Yep. And so I told them, and they're like, oh, okay. And then I never heard back from them. And it wasn't a lot. Like, it was like, a couple $100 to do it right and safe. And so that it doesn't have to be removed in a year because it's hazardous.
So is this like a house flipper, basically?
I don't know their story, but like, but I've experienced that that's just a recent example of something I experience often with people who do flip houses, with people who do, like, they're just trying to make it look good for a sale. And I'm like, I don't want to make it look good. I want it to be good.
Yeah, there's a difference between hanging a portrait to cover up, a blemish on a wall, and doing something that's going to, rot the foundations underneath or whatever,
Yeah, exactly.
Or, like you say, cause a bunch of mold. I was having a conversation with someone yesterday who's, very close to me in my life, who lives in a house that's full of mold. And it's a council house, which means it's social housing, which means nothing they can do. What are you going to do? Yeah.
Tear out the walls and replace.
And you can't do that when you're renting from the council.
Oof.
And the council are like, it's just condensation. So the council, because what's supposed to happen, or what should happen, my understanding, is you go, this is a health risk. Yeah. So someone from the council comes around and goes, yes, that's a health risk. We will find you a new property to live in. And they are looking at it going, that's fine. It's just condensation. Just open windows. And
condensation causes mold.
Yeah.
Growth.
Yeah. Well, yes. Also, new paragraph in brackets, not spoken out loud. Also, our council is broke. We don't have any money to move you to a new property. And we probably don't have whatever money would be involved in some kind of legal action, because you shouldn't be living in this mold-infested house.
Blah. Another instance, sure, the money aspect is something, but also another instance of just people not caring about quality, and that's going below the bar. That's not caring about the absence of, the absence of the standard, let alone going above and beyond for quality.
And
tragic.
This is a particular thing to just social housing, but that is causing people to. That is going to cause. Well, I think one of them is already mentally not as healthy as they might be. In fact, two of them are. And from conversations with you, I can understand, and I've watched enough House, that like those two things can go hand in hand. Not always necessarily, but I absolutely can. Yeah. And so there is then a question of, when it's all various branches of our government and local services provided by said government or said council, it's like, okay, so now you're just offloading the problem from housing to health.
Yes.
So you're just passing this buck around to the NHS, who's now got to deal with the long-term consequences of the fact that you don't want to move this person.
Yep.
It's fucked.
It is fucked. What the fuck?
What the fuck? There was I heard again on a podcast this morning talking about, there's this idea of, there are two spheres. It's like what you care about and what you can change. And what a lot of unhappiness comes from is people, like there's the Venn diagram, you know, those two circles should intersect, but often one circle is way bigger than the other. The like what you care about is way bigger than what you can change. Yeah. And a source of unhappiness is people living in that space of having too many things that they care about that they can't change. So either care about fewer things or seek to change the things that you care about.
Yeah, for sure. I laugh because that caring about fewer things, that's so hard.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's like someone telling you not to overthink. It's like, it's not optional. I'm not intending to do it.
Now I have to think about overthinking and trying not to.
Ah! There's that tightening in the throat again.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
Oh, so you've been busy doing the website and making things happen that way.
Yeah, I've been working on my website a lot, rockstarremodel.com.
There you go.
And
link in the show notes. Like and subscribe.
Please do.
Rate and review.
Like people
actually
to call
do.
me again. And I'm really happy with it. I finally, so when so my ex-wife had created the Squarespace page, and I was never super happy with it. It was fine. It was effective and everything. And then when I got divorced, I quickly just like kind of changed the theme to a different theme that I liked a lot better, but it wasn't it was like a half finished website. It was like, because the way I was expecting Squarespace theme shifting to be a lot more seamless, and just like kind of like change the background of the page, of all the pages, and kind of the structure, but keep all the content of the pages, but it didn't at all.
That's what the ads seem to
that is definitely what they yeah. And I think it shifted to a new version, and so there was some incompatibilities and stuff, and so I'm like, okay, fine. And so I copied and pasted and moved some stuff around and made it a good enough website. Mm-hmm. But I didn't like work on the SEO and really try to like get into anything, because I wasn't valuing that as much as I should have. I didn't really think about how important that was for new clients to come in, because I wasn't thinking about new clients, because they just kind of always just kept coming.
Yeah.
And I've always had enough people reaching out.
Is that through Yelp, through word of mouth combination?
Yeah, it's been a combination. Like a lot of people find me on Yelp. It's definitely the biggest source for a long time. When like I got on Yelp early, and it was like I was one of the few contractors on there, and I got a couple good reviews, and then like people just kept reaching out and kept rating me on there, and kept reaching out, and like on my website I have a contact form, and on the form I ask you how you heard about me, and a lot of people click Yelp. Some people click Google, a lot of people click word of mouth, and they tell me who sent them, which is great, because then I usually like send out a little thank you to those people. But yeah, now it's just like it's gotten super quiet. And then I've realized how buried I am in the Yelp search results now. And like I just did a search for my own company after being logged out, and like I was surprised at how difficult it was to even find the search results. It was just all ads.
Oh, yeah.
So many ads.
Yeah.
And like you had to like look for like where do the results actually start? And then once you find them, like I'm on page like 6 or something. Like there's so many options before you get to me. Like, yeah, why would you even get to me? So it makes sense that people aren't finding me through Yelp anymore because it's flooded.
Yeah.
And so like, but I mean, I just did one search for bathroom remodeler, and that was all I did. And so that's what I'm basing this on. And so like, you know, if people were to be more specific, then great. But people aren't going to, like, they're just going to type in the thing that they're looking for. we can't expect the searchers to change what they're searching for. This is some of the lessons I'm getting back into my brain space. Like I was listening through with Make Marketing Suck Less Summit. Yeah. I like the SEO one, and I signed up for her like free series of stuff, and I'm going to work on my website for that and trying to get my rankings up higher again. Like part of me wants, I want to have more local friends. I want to have the ability to just kind of talk openly with people and share and hear their stories and commiserate and have camaraderie and that. And also, you know, I want to expand my social circle, my avenue for getting new leads is not, I don't think it's best suited online necessarily, or at least that's not my only area. I also want
very
to
much not
have like word of mouth relationships. Like this is where the high quality leads come from.
Yes,
I'm trying to expand my social circle and talk to some new people, and that went really well. It was a really nice time.
I love that.
I expect to be going weekly for that, so that'll be
nice.
Cool. Yeah,
I want something weekly.
Yeah, it's and I go to, you know, refuge recovery meetings weekly, but and these are great people, and I really enjoy being around them. But a refuge recovery meeting is a 20-minute meditation, so we're all quiet, and then 10 minutes of reading from the book, and then it's open for sharing.
Yeah,
and people will speak like for 3 to 5 minutes. And then, but there's no crosstalk. You can't comment on other people's things. So there's no discussion. There's no involvement. It's just a share, and then another 5-minute meditation.
Right.
And then we can get up, you know, and then we get up and like people like kind of like go to each other and talk and whatever. But it kind of feels like, all right, the event is done now. Like
yes.
We're all kind of chatting as we all leave.
Yes.
And like I've had decent conversations with people, and it's been really great. And we've stayed and we've talked for an extra hour afterwards and whatever. But it's like it's not a bonding. It's not.
No.
Also, like the people here are self-selected people who are kind of struggling. Like they're not in the best. Like I'm not trying to market to these people. Like I've said that I do remodeling, but I haven't like told them my company name or tried to pitch anything. Like it doesn't feel appropriate at all. It's like people struggling to keep afloat, you know?
So when you're rocking back and forth on the cold tile floor of your bathroom, do you ever look at the bathroom and think, man, I could really do with a splash of color around here?
Oh man. Oh dude. Yeah, that's brutal. I love it. But I have been having a fun time. After our conversation, I'm going to get back to it. I've been working on my house, and oh man, it's coming along. It's coming along really great. I thought that I was going to have to do some really difficult plumbing work to extend my 3-inch drain pipe underneath my existing toilet to get to the new toilet. But what I found out is that under the area where the new bathroom is going to be, there was a 3-inch drain that went to a gutter downspout. And not only can I use that drain for the toilet, which fucking score, but actually I'm not allowed to use that for my gutter downspout. So I have to decommission that. And
I mean, if you're not allowed to use it for your gutter downspout, then, you know, what are you going to do?
Put shit in it.
Do you ever see? You ever seen the film The History of the World Part 1?
Is that the YouTube video by what's that guy's name? Oh man,
It's not. It's a film from the 70s by Mel Brooks.
Oh no, I haven't seen that.
It's mainly in 3 or 4 acts, and it's great. It's I think an underrated, unsung Mel Brooks, sometimes forgotten Mel Brooks film. I think it is revolutionary France as one of the periods that they go into, and there's just this quick exchange, which is so one of the characters is he's the person who's in charge of the latrine essentially for the king, and they call him the piss boy. And there's this story which I know comes from some piece of French law, which is that the prince or the king and the piss boy look identical, and so someone says, "You look like the piss boy," and then the prince says, "Well, you look like a bag of shit." And that it's so often in my head. It's just that little exchange. So that was a long walk to get to that. Just like, you look like the piss boy. You look like a bag of shit.
Oh man,
you should watch it. It's good.
And you should watch History of the Entire World, I guess, by Bill Wirtz. Oh my gosh, it is hilarious. It's a 20 minutes. It's a 20-minute gem. The editing, it's all like really like not poorly animated, but like kind of like lo-fi animated.
There's a vibe to it. I'm just looking at the GIF that represents it. Yeah,
and he does great things with like going forward and backward in time, and like going into super interesting details that like don't matter but do matter. The little musical interludes and like. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's so creative and hilarious, and
love it.
Super, enjoy.
I haven't really watched any good TV in a while because like that just got me thinking about like the what is it, Shogun, and everybody was going mad for Shogun, and I'm like, I can't sit and read a TV program. Like, not at the end of the day, I'm not going to sit and read TV.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it's very good, but it's just that's not what's going to happen. I'm not going to an hour long. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get it.
But I do have a setting on my TV, which I'm delighted by.
That reads the subtitles out to you?
That would be great. Well, there is audio description that does that.
Yeah. I think that's just
I
dubbing.
use that.
Yeah.
But I can make the subtitles massive, which is great. Like I can make them really, really, really big. Both Amazon and Netflix have it. I don't know if any of the other services. Sorry, just got me thinking about Apple. I'd like to talk to you about this because I'm interested. This is very completely off topic to
wonderful. Let's do it. I'm tired of all that stuff. I think about it all day long. I don't want to think about
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, let's do something else. Were you aware that Apple are now deciding that they get a cut of Patreon subscriptions if they're made through the iOS app?
That's just fucked.
The company that wants to tout itself as being for the creatives, for the creators, for the people who think differently, brackets, they are now, I mean, they put out an ad earlier in the year where literally any creative instrument you can think of was crushed by a hydraulic press. Have you seen that?
No.
Yeah. So I remember watching this. So I watched the event when it came out. They had this ad, and it's basically like you've got piano, you've got guitars, there's all sorts of games and toys and creative things, beautiful multicolored things. And slowly, they're all getting crushed by a hydraulic press. To the point where you're watching piano strings and keys fly everywhere like it's real. It's actually filmed. They have a little squeezy, like a stress toy that's like a smiley face emoji thing. Its eyes bulge out and pop. Like, it's kind of mean-spirited. And then the press reveals, and like you've got this huge splash of color of all these things that it's squished. And then the press comes up and it reveals an iPad. So, yeah, okay, I get it. Like, all these creative things you can do on an iPad, lovely.
Yeah.
But what about people who want to do things like play instruments, like actual instruments, like we used to do before? It was so off the mark, and like I didn't get outraged about it, but people were kind of like,
no,
Apple, this ain't it.
No. I don't like that.
And especially also when we're in the world where we are now of AI, or what Apple's calling their version of AI, which is nothing, by the way. They made a huge big song and dance in their keynote this year about how they're bringing Apple Intelligence to the iPhone, and it's nothing. It's nothing. They've put a new interface on Siri, literally just like a new user interface. The one thing that it can do, which is different, is if you accidentally misspeak and you're like, oh, no, I meant Tuesday, it will catch that. And then it can send some queries to ChatGPT. Like, that's it. And it will do a little bit of like auto, like it's nothing. It's nothing.
Wow. Great. I'm happy about that.
Yeah. Well, but then a lot of people aren't, because they've still scraped all of the internet without people's knowledge and consent to feed it all into their large language model. But then they said afterwards, oh no, if you don't want us to scrape your website, you can put this, code or this tag on your website. And it's like, yeah, but you've just burgled my house and then sold me a burglar alarm. Like, you've got the stuff already. You don't get to be magnanimous and say, hey, if you don't want us to do... no.
Yeah.
Right. Bandits, absolute bandits. Anyway, it's fine. I'm not of that.
You don't become the most rich company in the world by doing everything nicely and with honor.
No, but they have managed, I feel like, to act with some degree of integrity. I think maybe not in the last 10 years.
It's so frustrating because on one hand they do all this pushing towards like more ecological manufacturing, and they've had scandals with like child labor, and they get on it and they stop that as much as they can. Like they get lied to by their manufacturers, so that like they're doing what they can, and they're fighting the good fight in some areas. And then they do shit like this where they're like taking Patreon money. Like,
so
they don't need those pennies to them. Like, what the fuck?
Exactly. So this came up this week, and I heard about it on Tom Merritt's show. He was like, "Oh, hey, if you want to subscribe to the show, if you want to subscribe to our Patreon, don't do it on the iOS app because they're going to charge you." Well, basically, Patreon have said, and I really don't fault. I mean, but they're not the bad guys here. No. Patreon have said, "Well, Apple are going to charge us 30%. So either you can eat that cost, or you can add it on extra so that people paying via iOS get charged 30% more." And that's obviously a deal. And it's only from November, and it's only for new subscriptions. So I heard Tom Merritt talk about it this week, and it's like, and now I'm starting to hear more of the discourse. And this is the one where, like, I don't use Patreon. I mean, I support people on Patreon. I don't have a Patreon. I've sometimes thought about it. I've thought, like, it might motivate me more to be more creative, but then I also know no one would subscribe, so not to worry. But, like, it is a lovely idea. And there's lots of people for whom it is their livelihood. And for Apple to think that they have any claim on
what the
30% of a singer-songwriter, like 3%, fine, because you've got your payment processing fee. That's the value you're adding. But outside of that, like, get all the way fucked. And like you said, it's so little money for them.
Yeah.
What is the mindset then? Like, this has to be a mindset thing of like, or they're so desperate to show growth on Wall Street, or to show growth to Wall Street, that they are just trying to wring every last drop out of everything they can, which makes me kind of think y'all are in a lot more trouble than you're letting on, because if those are the stones that you're now upturning, it's like, shit can't be good there then, because if your stockholders, shareholders, whatever, are that ravenous to get that tiny little rounding error that is Patreon, and you're willing to suffer the slings and arrows of all the bad will that will create, the confusion it will create, and the fact that creators, they're not going to play ball the same. Like, Patreon can't be coy and say within their app, hey, by the way, if you use the website, you'll pay 30% less. They're not allowed to do that. They have to pretend that is the real price.
Yeah.
Creators don't have to do that. So they're going to say to people, as I've already heard this week, don't subscribe to our Patreon on iOS. If you want to, you can use the web browser. Don't use the iOS app. So people are going to be told not to do it anyway. So what is Apple gaining in doing this, set against the loss of goodwill that they had, that there was any alliance between them and creators? Like, it...
This reminds me of what happened to Tim talking to Wall Street and saying, this isn't about the bloody ROI.
Yes. Hang the bloody ROI. I had the same thought earlier today, talking about accessibility.
And they made great strides with accessibility. Like, they've really pushed that.
And that was because that was what the argument was.
Exactly.
Someone was asking, what's the ROI? It's not about ROI.
But then they fucking want to like steal nickels and dimes from the people. It's like, what the
from your customers, basically.
Yeah,
from the same people you sell these machines to that are like, this is a pro creative, creator's machine. It allows you to plug in these different monitors and displays, and you can plug your keyboard in and all the different music devices, and you can use all these things. Also, by the way, we now get a cut of everything you make from a creative point of view. Like,
put the iPad back in the hydraulic press and turn it back on.
Yeah, you don't deserve people to buy your stuff. Like,
that's awful.
Yeah, I'm refinding my passion for the independent creative. I've kind of been out of that game for a few years. Like, I was in it with Podium. Like, that was my job. It was to be in that and to some degree advocate for them. I mean, for fuck's sake, the company logo was a robot fist. There was definitely, like, that was the energy that I was bringing. Yeah. And I've kind of been out of that now. And I'm like, I don't know, like, how can I be a champion for creative people so that this stuff doesn't get lost? And married up to what you were saying earlier about local stuff, I think tied in some of the ideas I was talking to you about previously, is like, maybe there's more to be done on a local level instead of trying to do things digitally. It's like, what can I do to support local musicians, comedians, actors, like whatever it is, artists? I don't know. But
I'm finding more and more of a push or a pull or drive to do things off the internet, do things not digitally, do things trying to get back into the real world. Also, I'm trying to like remove plastics from my life as much as possible. I was talking with an acquaintance at a party recently, and they were like, it's really hard to buy meat without it being covered in plastic.
Yeah.
Like, not only if you have like those pre-wrapped ones that have like the cellophane over the top of it, but even if you go up to the butcher counter, then they put the butcher paper down there. One side's paper, the other side's plastic. Like, they coat the paper with plastic, and then they put the meat right on the plastic. On the internal level, it's like, how can I even keep up with all the things that I want to do to be better, to be more ecological, to be more efficient? And that, like, and I can't at all even let myself think about how my neighbors on either side of me do not care at all. Like, they're just overflowing their garbage cans and, like, living the fully American excess life. It's just, anyways, as always, correct Apple, because they are in the wrong. I like to write things down sometimes when you're going on a stream of consciousness, and I got to catch up on things I want to get back to.